Looking for ideas for getting more out of your small dies? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have the Scrapbook.com Butterflies 2 Small Die Collection. As you can see, they're not much bigger than my nail there. They're quite small, but they can add a lot to a card, and I'm working with the Scrapbook.com rainbow glitter paper as well. Scrapbook.com did provide the butterflies in exchange for design work, and I am going to also use their adhesive on the back because I don't want to have to be dealing with like gluing down each little bit. I'm going to try to make it life a little bit easier on myself. So each of these are from the A2 size of the glitter paper, and it is glitter paper, not glitter cardstock, so something for sure to keep in mind. You're going to want to peel away one side of the adhesive and stick it on the back of your paper. In the case, because this is paper and not cardstock, this adhesive layer, being this nice quality adhesive, will also add a little bit more stability to the die cuts, which will be nice. And sometimes liquid glue could be preferred because I am going to be kind of doing some fiddly stuff with it, but I like to not have to handle little tiny cuts and adding all the glue. So work with whatever adhesive you prefer. I want to cut all 6 butterflies out of all 6 colors that I'm going to be using in the rainbow. There actually are enough to do 7. There's a sort of like pinkish purple color, which is maybe not exactly indigo, but if you did want to do a true 7 color rainbow, there are 7 colors in the Scrapbook.com rainbow glitter paper. So I want to cut them all out. And I determined the size of my adhesive sheet by how many, how much room it took to fill the butterflies. So it's about 2 inches big, and then I'm going to tape these down so that I can die cut them all at once. Basically, I want to be able to have them all on one sheet or one strip of tape, so that when I've die cut it out of the yellow, I can just move them all over to the red and the blue and the green, etc., so that I am not fiddling with each die each time. Now that I've cut out all of my small dies and they have adhesive on the back, I'm ready to start using them to make a rainbow card. I couldn't decide, or I was having a hard time deciding whether I wanted a black or white card base, because I think sometimes rainbows really pop off of black, but then sometimes that it makes the whole card a little bit darker and less cheery than I was initially going for. So ultimately I chose white. And I also die cut my hello, which will be my sentiment, also a Scrapbook.com die, and that I cut out of black and white too, just so that I would have plenty of options when the time came. I'm going to start with red at the top, and I'm going to add my butterflies. I kind of pre-measured and saw that the 6 butterflies would pretty much fill a row across the card, and then I could just go down in rainbow order and add my butterflies. I kind of want them to look like they're flying in a sort of random pattern, so I'm going to try to vary it up as I go. And I wanted my sentiments out of black and white because there's an outline and an inside sentiment. So that way I will have some choices. I am going to overlap the edge of the card, and I will trim those off later. But in general, I think things look a lot more interesting if there's some overlap on the edge of the card. It just makes things look like there's a little bit more motion going on, and often if in a pattern paper, if you have elements, some of them are going off the page. So like if there's a giant flower or pumpkin, I'm thinking fall recently, but butterfly would be great too. They're usually not like a complete, every single butterfly is complete. There are some that are hanging off, so I'm gonna figure I'll take a cue from the professionals. Like if this is what they do for a living, they probably know that there's a reason to do that, and so that's what I'm going to do as well. And then I'll keep going in rainbow order till the card is filled. I am almost at the end of attaching all of my butterflies. I would certainly not call this like a fast card. It doesn't take a super long time, but it's something where I'm thinking really carefully to try to kind of puzzle piece these together so it looks nice and full. I decided not to overlap any of my butterflies, which probably made things a little bit harder, and you could pick something that either you'd be fine overlapping or maybe something that's a little bit more regular shaped. Like if you had a bunch of circle type dies, then you could just line them up or stagger them, something like that. But now that I have my complete card, I'm ready to chop off all those extra pieces. I always recommend turning your surface over, in this case the card base, and cutting from the back. If I've ever tried to cut from the front, I often find that I don't do a very good job, and this prevents me from cutting too far. Like I'm not going to accidentally cut my card base because my scissors right up against it in a slightly different way than it is here because I can't see the card base. So also, while I was attaching all of these, I had the Reading Rainbow song stuck in my head, and it kind of made me wonder, like, did any of you guys grow up with Reading Rainbow or your kids? And there's like the beginning, they're singing about a butterfly, and a butterfly is coming across the screen, and so with this rainbow butterfly just really made me think of that, which is a happy memory. I loved Reading Rainbow, and LeVar Burton, who was like the narrator of Reading Rainbow, has a podcast where he still reads you stories. So if Reading Rainbow and listening to LeVar Burton is like nostalgic for you, you might want to check that out. The podcast is a lot of like sci-fi fantasy type stories, but I don't know. Sorry, like random plug for Reading Rainbow here. Ultimately, I think it makes sense to go with the black hello outline and then fill it in with the white letters. And that was probably not the way to do this. I find it's actually better to peel the die cut away from the adhesive than it is to peel the adhesive backing away from the die cut, because now I have all of these pieces still stuck in here, and that is definitely user error. I know this is not for everyone, but that die cut where I pulled the backer sheet off, it was frustrating me. And so I just decided to cut a new one. Not because I couldn't have made that one work, but because I've recently tried to work on just being more joyful and relaxed in card making rather than feeling like I have to save every little piece and be perfect. I mean, how much easier was that than like fiddling through and cutting? And I know that that's not for everyone, and some people are going to feel like it's wasteful of material, or maybe, if you have a really, really tight budget, it feels bad to waste that adhesive sheet that goes on the back, or even to waste cardstock. But for me, that's a scrap. I know that the adhesive sheets are not that expensive, that I would rather have fun with my card making than to really frustrate myself. But here's something that I will share about this is I think generally with the scrapbook.com adhesive, I prefer if the brown paper is what's left on the back. I find that it pulls up a little easier, but also there are times when, and this has nothing to do with the dies, but over time your machine is going to start cutting less well. Like their plates are going to get warped, and you can replace those, and you absolutely should replace those regularly. The pressure is going to change, and so sometimes you're going to need to run it through your machine more than once, or you're going to need to add a little shim or something like that. And so try to figure out if those are things that help your process so that you can focus on having fun with your crafting and not getting frustrated by trying to pull out little letters from a die cut that should have worked. Here, like basically for whatever reason, this little strip just didn't die cut well, and I think there was something, it's actually where the tape was, and so it may have changed the pressure a little bit. And that's fine. Maybe if you find that out about your machine and you try to be more careful about putting your tape off to the side or something like that. I hope this has inspired you to look at those tiny dies in your collection in a new way. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.